Hi, I'm Candy King from geekmamas.com, and I made the costume most commonly referred to as Slave Leia, the one that was used in the movie Fanboys, the one that Kristen Bell wears. They purchased that costume actually off of eBay, where I had it for sale, and then I later saw it in the movie posters and pictures and instantly recognized it as mine. This is how far back it goes. It was on MySpace, and I messaged the director and let them know that it was my costume, and if they needed any extra pieces or anything for the movie, I could send that, and he said they were already done filming. But I do have the whole story on the blog if you want to know like the whole story about that. What I'm here for today is part 2 of, well, I guess it's part 3 of making the costume, because I used to make it for people, like do custom costumes, and I don't really do that anymore. I'm really tired of making this costume, to tell you the truth, because I have made hundreds of them. So I was trying to show other people how to make it, and then they could do it themselves. Also, it took me a really long time to get to this part with the top, because the top is hard to make and there isn't really a pattern, and also there's probably much better ways of doing it now. I made this in 2002 and a lot of stuff wasn't available back then. No 3D printing, no Worbla, nothing like that. So I had to use what I could find at Joann's and Home Depot. So I'm going to show you guys how I made the top, and maybe you can take bits and pieces of it and do your own thing with it, or do it exactly how I did it. I don't know. Like I said, I made this up as I went along. So I'm just showing how I made these tops. I also made a couple different types. I'm just going to show one type real quick before I get to the one that's in the movie. So all the tops start with a bra as a base. I used to make one that was a little more simple, and it was just using a bra like this, and then using using this cord, which you can find in the upholstery section, and then just gluing the design on. And it made a really simple top, but and this is what it looks like finished. So that is a really, really easy way to make the top. Just glue some of this onto a brown bra. So now I'm going to show you the really complicated way to make a top. And it also starts with a bra. I wasn't going to make this video originally, but a lot of people have messaged me and been like, why did you just make half the costume? And can you please make the top? So I am doing this for you guys that sent me the messages, okay? And hopefully, I mean, you may see why I didn't do the video. It starts with a bra. This is not the best bra to use. So the harder the bra cup is, the better. And you're gonna take off the straps. So, and you wanna look for a bra that has like this elastic at the bottom, right there, because you're gonna cut all of that out. So, and you're gonna need a pillow because you're gonna use it as a body, and you gotta stuff it because that makes it a lot easier to work with. So the first thing you're gonna do is find the scissors, prep the top to cover it. So I cut off the straps, leaving a little bit like at the top, and then you cut the bottom out. Okay. All right, so this one isn't going to be a really good one, but if you have the elastic, then it doesn't look like all messed up like this. That's why you need a bra that looks like this, and you get a good clean cut right there. This one looks like this, and so it looks crappy, but I didn't want to mess up the other bra. I'm just using this to show you guys. So anyway, this is how you cut it. So it looks like that. But it looks a lot better if you have the elastic. So next, you're gonna make a little loop at the top. And usually I stitch it, but I'm just doing this fast, so I'm gonna hot glue it. So it looks like that. It's a little loop, and you're gonna put leather cord through that. That's the leather cord I use. It's surprisingly strong. I rarely had one break, but use this to tie around the neck. This is pretty much like the cliff notes of making this. So you cut your leather into 2 pieces because it's gonna tie around your neck, and then loop it through here. So this is where you guys might wanna do something different. I'm just showing you how I did it. So I loop it through there, and then I tie it. But I leave a big long piece up here because I used to have these beads that I would slide down on top of it, and it helped hold everything in place. I can't find any of those beads right now, but I'll kind of put it in the picture so you can see what they look like. So you can see like the long bead, and then there was a little ball on top. So that's what comes after that. You can do whatever you want up there right now, but just make sure you tie it in a really good knot. And then you can also cover it with hot glue after you cut the little piece off. So I'm just gonna cover it with hot glue, kind of glue it into place. Okay, so once you figured out this top piece here, it looks a lot better with the bead on it. Now it's time to cover the bra top. So my favorite material that I use for that is micro suede, which they have at Joann's, or they used to a million years ago when I made this. And I usually used a tan. You can use any color. I've made them in green and like different shades of tan and even gray. So it's whatever color you're feeling, but you cut it into a square and then cover the top, just the cut part. When you're covering the top, the first thing I always glue down is right across the top, because you want that to be a nice smooth line. So I add hot glue and put that right there. And then glue it around back. And if you're making this for yourself, you can make it nice and neat. So you just keep gluing it down all along that top bit. Then I glue it in the center. And you just make sure it's nice and smooth. And then you're gonna have to fold the fabric because it's curved. So I usually take it and fold it like this. Then I'm gonna, so I put a little fold in it. So it's like this. And then you're gonna take it and fold it up, but make it look nicer than that. So you just wanna have it nice and smooth with as few seams as possible. Once you find that perfect spot, then you can glue it down. Usually glue the fold into place first. And then it looks like that. And then glue around the bottom. And of course, everything I do on this side, you get to repeat on the other side, but I am just making one side. So continue gluing it all around the edges until it's nice and covered. So when you're all done, the base of your top will look like this. And this is what it looks like on the inside, which it can be done much nicer, and you can cut the edges smooth when you glue them down and stuff, but I'm just doing a quick demonstration. All right, now comes the part where you will need the pillow. Ta-da! And then you're gonna need to stuff it. So now I have, so normally, like I said, you'll be doing both at the same time. I'm just doing one. So to do the design on the top, you're going to need welting cord, which you can get in the home decor section of Joann's. It doesn't matter what color it is. I just use a color close to gold because you'll be painting over it. So it comes looking like this because it's made to go like down the sides of couches and pillows and things. So it has this little lip on it, which you need to cut off. And when you cut it off, you end up with it looking like this. It doesn't usually look this fuzzy. This is very old. It should look smooth. And then the next thing you're going to need is wire, like a bendy craft wire. And what you're gonna do is thread the wire through this, and that way it makes it so it'll hold a shape. So if you bend the wire with it pokey like this, then it just kind of stabs through. So you wanna make a little loop at the end before you thread it through. And then you just thread it through. Whenever it gets stuck, then you can kind of like grab the little loop and push it on through. Once you push it all the way through, just cut the end off. And then I usually turn that into a little loop too. That way you don't have stabby ends. Now we have something that you can bend and it will hold a shape. All right, so the first thing I do, is seal this end with glue. Then you're gonna create the swoosh shape on the top. And I just literally freehand do it. Every single one of them. I don't use a pattern or anything. I'm going to add an additional piece that goes right here. So that's why we start with this one. And we're gonna glue it down, make our shape. And you want this little ledge that goes on the outside, like how I have it here. And then you can hold it in place with pins like this. And the reason you're going to want to do this is so that you can match it on this side. And so what I do is I put pins in and I make sure both sides match before I start gluing anything. But since I don't have to match anything, I'm going to glue this down. And then you just glue it down like that. I lift it up and glue it down. Get rid of all those little stringies. Okay, and the first piece is on. Next, there's going to be a piece that goes down the neck, and then there's going to be the piece that goes around the bottom. So for the neck piece, I don't usually put wire in that. And you're going to need a piece big enough to go one piece like that. But since I'm only doing half, again, I'm just going to use a small piece, and you want to make sure this ledge is at the top. So you match it there at the top of this. See, the little ledge on this stuff is actually part of the design later. I need more glue. Okay, and then when you get here, you just do a little work it around it. Try not to glue it to your pillow. I usually have a craft I have a special pillow I use just for crafts, but I couldn't find it. So we're just doing it this way. All right, so like I said, normally this would go all the way around. And there, see, it's starting to look like a Leia top. And then the final piece is the bottom piece. So for the final piece, again, I've got the cord with the wire in it, and I didn't have the same color, so I'm using a different color. Okay, so I want to anchor this one down at an angle. You can kind of fold the fabric in, and then I'd have it come out. And like I said, I pretty much just made up this design. It is not screen accurate to Return of the Jedi. I just made it the way I wanted, and that is kind of how it ends up looking. All right, so this is what it looks like right now before we start painting it. But as you can see, the bottom piece goes all the way to the other side, and you would repeat the design on the other side. So just imagine there are two sides. The first layer you put on is going to be a fabric paint, and that way it's going to create a nice smooth surface to paint with the more metallic gold over it. But this is your first layer. I use tulip fabric paint. I like to use the fabric paint in a bowl and a paintbrush to put it on to make sure it gets good and covered. And the first layer is not going to look like much. When you have your first layer of paint on, it looks like this. Doesn't look that great, but it's your first step. You want to get it kind of goopy around the corners, because when you paint over it, it'll look more like molded metal then. So that is layer one with the fabric paint. So this is the top after 2 layers of the fabric paint. And you can see I kind of gooped it up and filled in all the little wrinkles and stuff. The next part, you use spray paint, but you don't spray it. You spray it in a cup and then paint it on. So this is my spray paint cup, and this is going to give it the metallic finish. So this is what it looks like once you spray it in there, and it's pretty stinky, so make sure you have the windows open. And then I use a paintbrush and I paint it on. And you cover all of the gold. So once you put the gold metallic layer on, I promise it looks more metallic in person, then you do the final details with the fabric paint again. So I go around all the edges and the top there and around the outside, and I do detail work. And you do like a really thick line that fills in all the spaces. So this is the top piece. I just did the one side, and it's a pretty quick job, but you can see how it turns out. And I wanted to point out, so this was the yellow one, and you can see there's like a texture. You don't want that. The tan came out nice and smooth. Don't go with one with this texture on it. You have to do several more layers to get it to look smooth, and you want it to look nice and smooth. You can find a link in the description to a blog post on geekmamas.com that will have more details. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment, and I try to check at least once a week on here and answer questions. Or you can contact me through the blog, and I always answer back fast to that. So good luck making your costume, and may the force be with you.